Okay, so have you ever noticed, like, ever feel like sometimes your brain, it's just like it's on this like hamster wheel of what ifs?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you get stuck in these loops of worry and anxiety, and
It's exhausting.
it really is. And so today we're going to be doing a deep dive into a book that I think a lot of people have heard of. It's called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie.
Oh, yeah, classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. And we're going to see if this advice that was written decades ago still holds up in today's, crazy world.
Right. Because I mean, the world has changed a lot, right?
It has.
But some things I think are just part of the human experience and worrying is one of them.
Yeah, it's timeless, right? And, the interesting thing about Dale Carnegie is, from what I've read, he was a champion worrier himself.
Really?
Yeah, so he kind of wrote this book as a way to try to figure out solutions for himself.
Oh, wow. So he was really in the trenches with this.
Yeah,
That makes his advice, I think, even more powerful, right? Because he's not just like, some guru up on a mountaintop.
right.
He's someone who has really struggled with this himself.
Exactly.
So I'm curious, what are some of the key takeaways?
Well, one of the big ones is this idea of living in the present moment. And he has this great analogy that he calls living in day-tight compartments.
Oh, interesting. What's that?
Yeah, so it's basically like imagining your mind as a ship, and each day is like a separate compartment.
Okay.
And those compartments are watertight. So yesterday's worries, they're sealed off in a previous compartment,
Okay.
and tomorrow's anxieties, they can't flood into today. So you're just focused on navigating today.
I love that analogy. That's very visual.
Yeah.
I could see how that would be helpful.
And it also makes you realize, like, okay, what can I actually control right now?
Right.
And a lot of times, the things that we're worrying about, we can't do anything about in this moment.
Yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in like future tripping.
Totally, totally. And then another one of his big points is this idea of action over anxiety.
Oh, okay. So like taking action to combat the worry.
Yeah, yeah. So instead of just like sitting there and stewing in your anxiety, he's saying, hey, like get up and do something about it.
That makes sense. But I guess the question is what kind of action, right? Because sometimes I know for me, when I'm anxious, I just kind of run around like a chicken with its head cut off, and it's not always productive.
Right. And he actually addresses that in the book. It's not just about like being busy for the sake of being busy.
Okay.
He emphasizes that it's about discerning uh, useful action, I guess you could say.
Oh, that's interesting.
So he has this great exercise where he says, okay, accept the worst case scenario of whatever it is you're worried about,
Okay.
and then make a plan to deal with it.
So kind of like taking away the power of the unknown.
Yeah, and I think like once you actually confront that fear and that worst case scenario, it suddenly feels a lot more manageable.
Right, because often I think what we're really afraid of is the uncertainty.
Yeah,
But when you actually face it head on, it's like, okay, well, this is what I would do.
I can handle this.
I can handle this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this also kind of ties into the next point, which is the power of perspective.
Okay, yeah, perspective's huge.
And the review that I read, they were talking about how, like, for example, if you're stressed about work, but then you shift your focus to spending time with your family, suddenly that work stress feels a lot smaller.
Oh, absolutely, because you're reminded of what's truly important.
Yeah, exactly.
And it puts things in perspective.
Yeah, it's like decluttering your mental space,
Totally.
choosing to focus on what truly matters.
Yeah, that's so important, especially in today's world where there are so many things competing for our attention.
Right, there's so much noise.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you filter that out and decide, okay, what do I really care about?
Yeah. What deserves my energy?
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, obviously the book was written, quite a while ago, so some of the examples might feel a little bit dated.
Sure.
But I think these like core principles,
The principles are timeless. Yeah.
yeah, like managing stress and cultivating a positive mindset, I mean, those are things that are always going to be relevant.
Absolutely. And it's interesting how these ideas, they kind of connect to a lot of the, modern research and psychology today. Like, for example, mindfulness exercises, right?
Uh-huh.
It's all about being present in the moment, very similar to Carnegie's day-tight compartments.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have like cognitive behavioral therapy
Right.
that helps us identify, those negative thought patterns, those anxious thoughts.
And challenge them.
Challenge them exactly and replace them with more, helpful ones.
It's amazing how all of these things kind of come full circle.
Yeah, it is.
So to wrap up, I guess the big takeaway is worry less, live more, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's the essence of it.
But here's a final thought for you.
Okay.
Carnegie suggests keeping busy as a way to combat worry,
Right.
but is staying busy always a healthy solution? Could there be a point where it becomes counterproductive or maybe even another form of avoidance?
Ooh, that's a good question. Because I know for me, sometimes I do stay busy to avoid dealing with certain things.
Yeah,
So I think it really speaks to the importance of self-awareness, right?
yeah,
Being honest with ourselves about why we're doing what we're doing.
exactly. And finding that balance, right, between action and stillness.
Yes, exactly.
So, for those of you who want to explore these ideas further, we highly recommend checking out the full book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. It's a really fascinating read, and we hope you enjoyed this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being
It
here.
was fun.
Yeah, it was a great conversation.
Absolutely.
All right, until next time.
See ya. Bye.